Welcome to another episode of Business Meets Life. And we are here live in New York. I was chasing Barry Nashen before he actually goes back to Canada to come and speak with us. He is an adventurer, has traveled to 65 different countries. Would you have guessed that he actually has done trapeze flying? I don't know if I said this correctly now. Beyond this, he actually sold his IT company, and he has so many good stories to tell about work and life. Welcome, Barry. Do you want to add something about your introduction? Because you're a person with so much diversity. Thanks for making time for us.
You're most welcome. I'm very happy to be here, Janine, and answer all the questions you have about life and business. There's a whole list of things I suppose I can add to what you said about me, but a couple of interesting things people might find, your viewers may find interesting. One is I'm a licensed pilot, so I fly my own airplane, not often, but it's a lot of fun to be able to do that. We can talk about more of that later. And also I became a certified hypnotist, which has enabled me to unlock a lot of what people are let's say, thinking about when they're saying other things. So that would complete the introduction.
Okay, beautiful. So before we go more into business topics, first of all, I'd like to ask you, that's a deep question. What is your secret to living a happy and successful life? Because when you and I just met at a conference here in New York a couple of days ago, first of all, you have a big smile on your face, so much positivity, so much kindness, love when talking to you. But I also heard your success stories and investing in companies, selling your own company. You come from the IT like me. So what's the secret of living a happy and a successful life, according to you?
Well, that question is like the Holy Grail. I'd probably have to write a book about it if I really knew the answer.
The third book then soon.
That would apply to everybody. However, for myself, I have found that in order to be happy and successful, one has to first be a little bit introspective and understand what it is that makes you tick. Everybody comes into this world with their own unique set of genes and DNA, and usually it's different for each person, even in small ways or other times in huge ways. And the sooner you can understand how you behave, how you react, what brings you pleasure, and what kinds of reward you can bring to others, then you can start living a fulfilled life by activating these needs that you have. So the earlier in life you can figure out what you're made of and what you need and what you can offer, the sooner you can act on it and develop a very successful life, financially as well as philosophically and mentally. And of course, everything else flows from that. Once you're happy and successful, the sky is the limit. Even not the sky. You're limitless.
I love what you said, and it's interesting because when I met Hugh Hilton and Steve Agg, who you also know, and even Oprah's partner, they're all saying the same thing. They're all successful people, and they all start with going back to the basics, which you called it like first be introspective, right? Which is self-awareness. So thank you for sharing this, because
they must have heard that from me then.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
I'm a little older than those people. So.
I see. So good that we're talking to the source now. Guys, take some notes. Let's move on to the next question. Now, what is your advice on how to be a successful entrepreneur? Because you've been doing this all your life.
That's true. Well, that's a bit more complicated. Being an entrepreneur is difficult enough. Being successful is really like statistically against all odds. I think 3 or 4% actually succeed. So what is, I think, essential is to understand at the beginning, before you go into business, before you start a career or start your own entrepreneurial life, is to realize that there will be ups and downs, there will be successes and failures. And the downs and the failures don't define you, they inform you. Many people say we learn from our mistakes, and not from our successes. And I agree. Of course, we can learn from successes, but we can learn a lot more, usually, from our failures. So failures and let's say unexpected surprises that could hurt most people are actually the fodder we need in order to learn, to grow, and to move ahead and get stronger and more successful until the next failure, of course. But it never ends. And I suppose that is a key principle in order to remain positive through adversity.
Thank you for sharing this with us. And one of the first stories that he actually told me when we connected is you told me you also were in China before. I think like way years before me. And I feel like you have seen more of China than I actually did. Do you quickly want to elaborate a bit about these kind of adventures? It just popped in my mind now.
Well, I love talking about my adventure travels. In the case of China, I was there the year before Tiananmen Square, so sometime in the mid 80s, and I was going on a cycling trip. We actually, a small group of us followed the Yangtze River and bicycled from town to town. And in those days, China was still a second world country. Things were pretty backwards. As I remember explaining to you, in the biggest city at the time in China, Beijing, which is the capital, the biggest roads had 6 lanes going one way and 6 lanes going another way. But only the middle, the interior 2 lanes were cars. And usually they were government officials. Nobody else could afford a car. 3 of the other 6 lanes were scooters, belching out dirty, blue, smelly smoke. And then the exterior 2 lanes in each side of the road were bicycles. And in those days, everyone bicycled or scootered. And the bicycles all had 1 speed, 1 gear. There were no 10 speed, 12 speed, 18 speed, 24 speed gears. And the reason was there were too many people in the country to have everyone going at different speeds. So with a 1 speed gear, everyone was obliged to go at the same speed. And the reason for that is the intersections were usually rotaries, and there were no red lights or green lights. So when you arrived at a rotary, you had to merge in with everyone coming from the left, go around the rotary, and then come out whichever exit you wanted. And so everybody always merged at the same speed. And what I didn't tell you the other day, which is really interesting, Janine, is that there were often collisions. And this is how the Chinese resolve collisions. I don't know if it's true today. So 2 bikes would collide, or 2 scooters even, and someone would fall and they would both stop, and then they would start to argue. Of course, I didn't speak Chinese, but I could see clearly,
body language.
Yeah, clearly no one was happy. And then a crowd would form of 15 or 20, maybe more people. A crowd would form, and everyone would jump into the debate. And within 30 or 45 seconds, it was clear that the vote by the people was that one person was in the wrong and one person was in the right.
The vote by the people.
Well, they didn't vote with their hands, but they voted by supporting one position or the other, because everyone saw the accident. There's a zillion people saying.
Yeah.
So within less than a minute, the person who was decided to be in the wrong would apologize profusely, and they both get on their bikes or scooters and they would continue on their way. So it was a very interesting way of resolving simple disputes on the road.
Interesting. So guys, I know we have a lot of listeners from China here. I don't know how it is on the countryside nowadays. You may know this better, but yeah, us in the big cities, we definitely have the cameras. There's cameras everywhere, so it's very easy to solve it nowadays. Interesting story. I'd love to see some pictures. Now, let's move on to the next question. And I quickly would like to go back to your business again, because you have worked in IT for a long time. We all have gone through COVID. Sometimes we still talk about before COVID and after COVID. So you sold your company right before COVID, right?
Lucky me.
And I'm wondering, like, how was COVID for your company after you sold it? Because I assume you probably cannot just like sell it and leave immediately. And what did they see in your company on why they bought it?
Oh, these are excellent questions, Janine. In fact, in a service business, the only value you have are your recurring revenues. The revenues that aren't recurring can't always be counted on. And in order to get a good multiple on your net profits or gross profits that your company generates, you need to be able to show to a prospective buyer that you're going to have recurring revenues for the next 10 or 20 years, as you've had in the past. And I had a recurring revenue business model. So in my case, my company was quite attractive. The company didn't need me so much as my team in order to keep customers happy. And so any potential buyer knew that when he bought me, when he bought my company, he was also buying my employees who were happy to move over and my customers who should have stayed on. I did something quite unique. I was advised against it by everybody.
Okay, so what was that unique thing that you did?
But my gut supported my contention. I felt emotionally secure with this decision. Instead of agreeing on a price, which I can admit was 4 times the multiple of gross profits, we didn't agree on 4 times the multiple of last year's gross profits. We agreed on 4 times the multiple of the next 3 years of gross profits, the average of the next 3 years.
Wow.
And so
That's like gambling.
Yeah. I took a chance that I would get paid at all. There was a down payment and an annual progress payment, but the final payment was a function of the next 3 years of gross profits. And I took a gamble that the buyer would pay me the 2 progress payments after years 1 and 2, and the final payment, which could only be calculated after the 36 months had transpired. And as I said, everybody said, you're crazy because you've got nothing, there's nothing you could do except sue if you weren't getting paid.
So your gut feeling kind of knew that your gut feeling knew the future, could foresee that it's gonna go really well.
No, my gut feel, well, Janine, actually that's half the answer. The other half, which I alluded to, was I had a very strong connection with the buyer. I was emotionally connected with him. I believed he would do the right thing. Whatever happens, he would do the right thing. I believed it. And he believed in me as well, that all my books and my numbers were correct. They weren't fudged, right? And so I think because he and I developed a relationship based on respect and trust, it was fine with each of us to go forward in this manner. And you know, it was a good thing too, because COVID made my business flourish.
Wow.
Sales jumped 25% in the first year. That's the year starting February 1st, 2020, when I sold my business. And the reason is that I think everyone knows that COVID made forced companies to invest heavily in secure networks so people can work from home, and the cloud got more important. Security became more important. Communication software became more important. We all know about Zoom. And so my business boomed for the next 3 years, in fact, as did the buyers, but I got paid a big premium over what I had, what we had both anticipated. And even though COVID struck soon after February 1st, if not around then, the buyer stuck to his word. There was no, oh, COVID, we don't know what's happening. I'm not going to pay you the down payment right now. I'm not going to. Everything went according to a handshake and a contract. I promised him 6 months of my time so that there'd be a good transition. And that was important for both of us because I wanted my clients to stay on. That was his future revenues and profits, which generated my purchase price. And of course, he didn't want to buy a company where customers were abandoning the ship. So I did stay on for 6 months, even though half of that was spent in lockdown. And the transition finished finally quite smoothly and ahead of 6 months.
Wow, congratulations on this. So now my next question is actually just popping up. Okay, so this is done, and you had this business for like 38 years or so, right? I mean, he's very young, so active, probably has more energy than some of you guys out there who are younger than him. But what's life now? I mean, what comes now? How do you spend your work or no work or your life? What's it like?
Well, good question, Janine. I always say that retirement is underrated. because I'm living my best life. I knew that I was going to be selling the company 5 years before I did, more or less. So I started with projects 5 years before. I started with hypnosis and other related interests.
Something different from IT to hypnosis.
Exactly.
We have something in common.
In fact, I traveled to Washington, D.C. to take a course given by people who have created this kind of a technology or a process for understanding when people are lying. And normally, the customers of this course are the FBI agents and police detectives. So we were 9 or 10 of us in the course, and I was surrounded by FBI agents, police detectives, which is kind of cool. And we learned about the 7 basic universal emotions and how you can easily read them on people's faces. And there's micro movements when they're lying, and it gives the detective or the agent or even me or you clues as to when there's a disconnect between when someone's smiling and when they're not happy. Like I'm smiling now, I think I'm happy, but if I had a micro movement in my face that was detectable by someone for fear or fright or sadness, something going on in the back of my mind, it would show. And then you would know that, and you'd be able to maybe tailor. If this were an interview, where were you on the night of the? You would know how to tailor your questioning to get the bad guys. So I did a lot of courses like that, and as well, started traveling even more. And that's what I've been doing a lot of lately too. The cycling and skiing, hiking, adventures all over the world. I document them with photographs and stories, and I have some really unique tales. I'm going to give you one now. You don't know this, of course, and I rarely talk about it. But if anyone here has been, anyone listening and watching right now has been to Egypt, I'm certain you went to see the pyramids of Giza. And
still on my list.
They're like spectacular. It's I won't even try to describe it because it's overwhelming to be at the base of the giant pyramid and the Sphinx. But back then, when I went, there wasn't any security. So I actually started climbing the biggest pyramid in the world.
Like rock climbing somehow?
So the huge granite blocks are quite big in the bottom. They're about 8 feet or 2.5 meters. And then as you go nearer to the top, which I did not reach, the granite blocks get slightly. Every row, the blocks are an inch smaller. Okay. So the first block, I had to jump up to grasp with my fingertips and then get up on it. But I got a high in my mind that I was, 8 feet up, looking down at my new friends below. So I went higher and higher and higher. And after a bit, I don't think I was a quarter to the top, but I turned around and I said, oh my God, it's very steep. And you don't know it when you're going up. You only know it when you turn around and look down. And I scared myself into not going higher and wondering if I'd be on the front page of the Egyptian newspaper in the morning. Another stupid tourist falls to his death trying to climb the pyramid because I couldn't jump down. The ledge is less than a foot wide. So I had to go down the way I came up by letting my legs go down and then letting my body drop till I could maybe touch the stone below me, and then I would let go and I would drop a few inches, and then I would do that one stone at a time. And again. So it's quite a scary thing. I think today there's yellow and black tape all around. You're not allowed to touch the pyramid
because of you. Which year was that?
So I have a lot of stories where I might have gone out on the edge a little bit. Some things I shouldn't do.
You won't tell anybody, right?
Yeah, no, don't tell anybody.
It's like Las Vegas, that what happens here, although we're in New York, not in Vegas, stays here.
If I go back to Egypt and I see my picture at the airport wanted, that's no good. So
it's our secret. Our secret for sure. Which then brings me to the next topic of your life purpose. Because I also come from IT, like you. I mean, for me, it was just 7 years that I was with HP. And then I started my entrepreneurial journey. Why? Because I found my purpose in life. a lot of people are looking for their purposes, for their purpose in life. Have you found yours? If so, what would be your purpose in life?
So, Janine, now we're getting into the weeds. It's a very important question that everyone should think about, especially if possible early in their lives, in their 20s or 30s, certainly. The thing is, as I mentioned before, we all come into this world with a different set of genes, DNA, and we have propensities to be brave or not, to be wild or not, to be an extrovert or introvert. But once we understand a little bit about who we are, the next question is, why am I here? What's my mission on earth?
Yes.
Of course, we can be, I suppose, just vain, make money, spend money, be happy.
Mm-hmm.
However, the greatest minds, I think, of the last centuries have written, and I have found later in life that the greatest purpose in life is to be of service to others.
Mm.
And whether it's through your work or in your personal life, or hopefully both, what is it that's special about you and unique about you that will allow you to help other people? Everybody has gifts.
That's deep.
And you could be selfish and ignore them and follow your own dream, make money, or be the fastest in your sport if that's what you want to do. But at the end of the day, the most fulfilling things in life are when other people are made happy or successful thanks to your help or efforts or guidance. And so I have been the last decade or two working a lot on anything I can do, even one person at a time, to encourage, to help, to aid, to give somebody a boost or some advice if they ask as to what I think could help them in their career or their, you know, some people have fears, and sometimes thanks to hypnosis, it's clear to me that the fears are unfounded and could be overcome by reframing the issue or the situation. So I may never help a million people at a time, but I think I can help one at a time. And over the years, there could be 1,000 or 2,000 people that are better off because I gave a little bit of support when it was required.
So in your podcast interview with Joey Geraldo, you basically spoke about hypnosis and fears, and you mentioned that apparently, independently of the culture, public speaking seems to be one of the biggest fears of a lot of people all around the world. So no matter what fear we have now, like how would we overcome fears in general?
Okay, so we need another interview for that question.
Oh, it's that long.
But I'm gonna response.
Elevator pitch.
My elevator answer, but we're in a tall building. So actually, most fears, as I mentioned, are completely unfounded. I would never have guessed that fear of public speaking is number one, but if you Google it, it's there, number one. It's just not my number one fear, so I didn't think it was anyone else's. However, everybody's different. So fears are usually unfounded. They're created in our earliest days when we're 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. They don't really have any basis in reason or logic. They're just there. And so usually we need a trick. To overcome fears, we need a trick. I read someone said, pretend everyone in the audience is naked when you're speaking
I've heard
in public. So I said, I don't know, I'd be distracted, I think, from delivering a good speech, but I suppose it would help some people. But generally for fears, you do need a trick, and that probably requires either like help from a hypnotist or help from reading a book. We have some usual New York noise going on outside of us, but you only get that in New York. So
perfect, beautiful.
Enjoy it. Every noise you hear will amplify the meaning of our discussion and our words today together.
Yeah.
So fears are usually in our unconscious minds. They're deeply ingrained. You can't get rid of them by wishing, but you can get rid of all your fears. All your fears, whether it's a fear of heights, fear of flying, fear of spiders, fear of snakes, fear of public speaking, all your fears can be eradicated with some help and a trick, a way of reframing the
Yes.
process that goes on in our unconscious minds. Once that's reframed, the fear dissolves away immediately
Mhm.
and no longer bothers us ever.
Yeah.
And so I encourage people to seek help if they have a fear that they don't want to live with. Now, if you're
Yes.
afraid of dogs and you don't mind avoiding dogs all your life, okay. But if
Mhm.
you're afraid of dogs and it's affecting your life because they're everywhere, then I think it would be a good idea to find the trick that works for you and get rid of that fear.
Mm. Beautiful. So I've already taken a lot of notes. I hope you guys too. So yeah, I'm a neurolinguistic programming practitioner. We also studied a little bit about hypnosis, but I'm not on your level yet. Let's go to the next question, because you are very wise now with all the experiences that you have. Is there some kind of advice you would like to give future entrepreneurs or a leader that you wish you would have known or somebody would have told you at an early stage and not just like 10 or 20 or 30 years later?
Yes, Janine, that was something I wish I were told at the beginning, but it dawned on me not long after going into business that being right has nothing to do with being successful. And most often in business, I guess every single business by definition has customers or clients. And quite often there are disputes. Sometimes they come about from a difference in perspective or opinion on what happened, what was asked, what was delivered, what was not asked, what was meant. And I have found that it's always better to, not the customer's always right, to understand the customer's mindset so you can deliver what he thought he was asking for. And if you can show the customer or the client that you always have their back, always have their best interests at heart, even if you need to lose money on this deal, this project, or this order, but you're always supporting the customer's end goal, you will succeed. Customers, clients do appreciate when people they work with have their backs. And even when they make a mistake, you support them and do the right thing. So I think that would be the most important understatement. Always do the right thing. And we know what it is.
I love that. Always do the right thing. And also, like you just said, being right has nothing to do with being successful. I think this has also a lot to do with empathy, right? This is why a lot of leaders are advised by their companies to take some courses in empathy and emotional intelligence. And there's even research out there that shows that some of the most successful companies or most innovative companies, these leaders practice empathy. So there's even a correlation between empathy and innovation when you put yourself in the shoes of the customer or of the end consumer. Yeah, so we're slowly coming to an end. I have two more questions for you. So I know, like in a network, when we are both, you are also investing. Do you mind sharing a little bit with us, like what are you investing in, or why are you doing this?
Sure. Well, now that I'm not working, I have more time to consider opportunities that may come my way. Let's think this noisy truck.
Oh yes, hi New York truck.
Yeah, hi. He's gone. So I have more time to look at opportunities that come my way. Some of them are real estate investments and some of them are business investments. And I'm happy to contribute where I think there's a good chance, an excellent chance of success. And it's funny you just brought up empathy because it's a good segue into this next explanation to your question. Most often in discussing opportunities with entrepreneurs who are pitching their opportunity, who are pitching what they believe will be a fantastic opportunity, a fantastic return, usually through discussion and body language and empathy, I'm able to quickly or not so quickly determine that I trust this person is on the up and up. I trust that this person will work 26 hours a day if they had to, because things went south the wrong way. And they have my back as being the investor and the backs of all my co-investors. And so if I don't get that feeling in discussing the opportunity that I'm being presented with, that the entrepreneur, the person pitching the investment, has 100% commitment, then I'll thank him or her for the opportunity, but I will not get involved. So empathy is really important in order to feel, if possible, what other people are saying or not saying.
Yeah, so it's not only about the numbers, basically.
Precisely.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing this. Now, I mean, the inflation is raising, and a lot of people nowadays say, "Oh, don't invest in anything." Like, what are you investing in, or do you have any advice for people who want to start investing?
Well, wealthy people say the time to make a lot of money is in the times like now, where things are seem to be bad all around. It's not quite bad all around, but inflation is high. The cost of borrowing money is high. Opportunities seem less important. But I would say it is a good time to invest in any field, as long as you feel that the structure supports a healthy return on investment, and the people running the business or the opportunity, as I mentioned, have 100%, even 120% commitment. Because if they're going to run with their tail between their legs when things go wrong, and things often go wrong, they're running away with your money. So you want to definitely preserve your capital first, and then make a return second. So if your capital is at risk, you have to question, is the return worth it?
Very good advice that we got today. Now we're finishing this up, and I'm just wondering, now we met just a couple of days ago at this conference in New York by JT Fox, at Global Net Worth. And why did you decide to say yes when I asked you, Barry Nashen, please come and be our podcast interviewee?
Oh, that's a trick question, because I already answered, Janine. I'm very happy to help your podcast grow its viewership with interesting discussions. And if amongst your thousands and thousands of viewers, a handful can take away something that I've said, and it'll help them in their efforts, in their future efforts, in their mindset, then I'll be very well rewarded. I'll have good karma for the rest of my life. So I'm here for you and your viewers.
Thank you so much. I think we're very aligned on this, because I believe in the butterfly effect, the domino effect, however you want to call it. As you mentioned, like, maybe it's just one thing that we say, but it can change a person's life. So, and all I would like to ask you is also, like, he spent his time, he hasn't driven back to Canada yet. He's still in New York here with me to spend time with you guys, share. So pay it forward. There's something on how he made an impact in your life just now. Pay it forward, tell other people about it, share it as well. And if you guys need any coaches, trainers, consultants based in China, or speakers, feel free to reach out to me. This was Janine Jakob and
Barry.
Also, oh my gosh, we haven't mentioned this yet. Most important, he has just published his newest book. Tell us quickly your title, where can people find it, and actually, why did you write another book?
Okay, well, this is the last question. Pay attention, everybody. So I've been very fortunate to have this bug in me since youth, about traveling the world, discovering different cultures, understanding who we are as people, and ultimately our missions, our shared mission on Earth. And I have this adventure bug in me, so I didn't just travel and go to museums. I did really exciting and adventurous holidays in the third world, the second world, and the first world. And I used to write, I still write postcards home. They used to be real postcards, you know, whatever you can squeeze on a little card. But in the last 15 years, they've been digital, they've been emails. And my email list has grown to be hundreds of people who are interested in seeing the photos and hearing my story of my experiences.
Wow.
And after every postcard, I would get 30 or 40 responses, or maybe more, from friends and strangers saying, you should write a book, you should write a book. So I decided to take all my postcards that are digital, there's 40 of them, and I collated them into a book I have a very interesting layout. I have beautiful pictures, 5 pictures more or less per postcard, plus my story of the adventures that I had, how I got into trouble and got out of trouble, mostly. Well,
Did you say travel or trouble?
Yeah, trouble. I really had some scary experiences around the world.
Yeah.
And it's just published. It's called Wish You Were Here. And it's self-published on Amazon. And it's actually, I think, a perfect coffee table book because somehow, by luck, I suppose, I became a really good photographer. It's not
I'm
my
jealous.
Own, it's not my own. It's not my own rating. Just this is the comments I've had over the years. And so I have about 150 of my favorite photos in the book, and it's a really interesting book in the sense that if you're sitting around in front of your fireplace or in your backyard or on a train and you're bored, you want something to do for maybe 5 minutes, you open up the book and you read a chapter, read one postcard, and I guarantee you, you're gonna have a big smile on your face the way I do right now, just by reading for 5 minutes and looking at the beautiful photos. So take advantage of this opportunity. Oh, by the way, if you download it on Kindle, I think it's absolutely free. If you're a Prime Amazon Prime customer, it's absolutely free. If you want a physical book, well, there's obviously costs involved and there's a fee. So have a look. Thanks.
But also remember, giving and taking should be in balance. So we want to give some value back. So I highly encourage you, get his book. I've seen the cover when he literally made his last decision. And yes, now it's out there. So I look forward to buying it myself now. Thank you so much. And actually, I do have one last question now, because this is your second book, Barry. Quickly tell us again what the first book is about.
Okay, so in fact, I'm a fitness enthusiast. I've run many marathons and Spartan Beast races. And
another part of you out of the variety.
The list goes on, but all to say that I became very fit and stayed very fit all my life. And people have always asked me, how can I become fit like you? And after getting that question posed to me hundreds and hundreds of times, I decided to write a book using hypnosis or hypnotic techniques. It's called The Seven Effective Strategies for Getting into the Best Shape of Your Life. Everyone said, keep the title short, 3 or 4 words. I took that advice on my second book, but the first book is called 7 Effective Strategies for Getting into the Best Shape of Your Life. And there are 7 strategies in the book. It's a very thin book, 45 pages. And each strategy has a hypnotic induction, which guarantees success for you to get into the best shape of your life. 1 or 2 of the strategies you will identify with. Nobody identifies with all 7 strategies. That's why I gave 7. 50 personalities will identify with 1 or 2 particular strategies.
Yes.
If you want to lose weight, if you want to run faster, if you want to cycle, if you want to do something that you couldn't do before, if you want to get into shape and look great, as everyone's right, then it's an excellent book. Again, I think it's perfectly free on Amazon Prime, and all the feedback I have on that book is that it works. The techniques work. So yeah,
we like it simple, and everybody's living a very busy lifestyle. So guys, please reach out to Barry, get his book, and he's going to change your life even virtually. Thank you so much for your time, for meeting me here in amazing New York. Wish you have a safe trip back to Canada, and thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
You're amazing.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.